Okay, let's kick off this deep dive somewhere truly extreme. Think about the Arctic winter. I mean, we're talking months of darkness, brutal cold. Finding food is almost a miracle. It's like the environment itself is trying to push life out. Everything operates right on the edge. We've really gone through the sources on this, looking at these incredible survival blueprints from the far north. And our mission today really is to get under the ice and snow, you know? We want to uncover those super specialized adaptations, the hunting tactics, and these really intense relationships between predators and prey. It's specialization taken to a whole new level.
Absolutely. If you think about it from a physics or biology angle, every animal there is just a masterpiece of, well, engineering. Their entire existence revolves around solving these, like, three core problems. How do you keep warm? How do you find food when there's hardly any? And how do you manage that deadly game between hunter and hunted? It's a constant evolutionary arms race, all about insulation and energy efficiency.
Right? Efficiency. So let's start small then, like really small. The Arctic fox. This little survivor weighs maybe just over 3 kilos, barely bigger than a chihuahua, as the sources mentioned. The big question isn't just what it eats, but how does something that tiny not freeze solid at, say, minus 50 degrees Celsius?
It's got this amazing multi-layered strategy. First off, the coat. You won't believe it. 70% of that coat is this incredibly fine underfur. It's like nature's best down insulation. And get this, it's the only dog relative, the only canid, with fur right on the pads of its toes. That's where it gets its scientific name, Vulpes legipus. It literally means hare-footed fox.
Wow, that insulation alone is impressive. But it's not just the fur, is it? It's the whole shape. Short snout, little round ears, short legs. It looks almost perfectly designed to be a ball of heat.
Precisely. Yeah, that's a theme you seek. And again, in Arctic mammals, you want to minimize the surface area compared to your volume. Short limbs, round ears, less skin exposed to that bitter cold. But the really ingenious part, it's in the feet. This is where the thermal biology gets really cool.
Okay, tell us about the paws then. How do they keep from freezing on the snow, but also not lose tons of body heat?
It's this mechanism called counter-current blood circulation. Think of it as a super efficient heat exchanger. The arteries carrying warm blood down to the paw run right next to the veins, bringing cold blood back up. So as that cold blood travels back, the warm arterial blood preheats it. It means by the time the blood gets back to the fox's core, it's not drastically lowering the body temperature. It's clever.
So the warm blood gives up a little heat on the way down to save a lot of heat coming back up. That's incredible thermal engineering. And this efficiency means the fox can handle unbelievably low temperatures before it even starts shivering, right?
Oh, absolutely. The Arctic fox doesn't even start to shiver until it hits minus 70 degrees Celsius. Minus 70. That metabolic mastery means it can use its energy for hunting, for surviving, not just constantly burning fuel to stay warm.
And their survival strategy sounds incredibly opportunistic. We learn they actually follow polar bears, the top predators, sometimes up to 800 kilometers away from land just to scavenge the leftovers.
Yeah, that's scavenging, plus their habit of caching huge amounts of food. We're talking maybe over 100 birds or eggs sometimes. And they use the snow itself, its insulation, and steady cold temperature like a natural freezer. It just shows how incredibly durable they are. They're built tough.
Okay, now let's switch gears. From the tiny fox solving the cold problem one way, let's look at a species that went the other direction, the Arctic hare. It adapted by actually getting bigger.
Exactly. It's the other side of that evolutionary coin. The Arctic hare is one of the biggest lagomorphs, rabbits, and hares out there. It can weigh up to 17 pounds. You know, that's like a small dog. And that size is crucial. It maximizes the body's volume relative to the surface area exposed. If you picture a healthy Arctic hare, it really does look like this compact, almost spherical shape, purely designed for holding onto heat.
And the details are just as smart as the fox's setup. Short ears, but with black tips to minimize exposure. Thick fur that changes color, perfect camouflage. And those amazing claws on the back legs.
Oh yeah, those claws are vital. They let the hare dig into hard-packed snow and ice. That gives them the traction for these incredible bursts of speed up to 60 kilometers an hour. And they can leap like 3 meters in a single bound. Survival for them is about being tough, hidden, and incredibly fast when needed.
That need for speed and camouflage, it really sets up our next subject perfectly, the
Right.
Canada lynx. Because when a predator gets that specialized, it doesn't just share traits with its prey, it shares its entire fate.
The Canada lynx, well, it's definitely one of the most specialized hunters on the planet. Our sources show that in some areas, something like 97% of its diet is just one species. the snowshoe hare.
97%. That's
Yep.
that's an unbelievable level of reliance. I guess the lynx must have evolved features that directly mirror its main food source just to keep up.
Absolutely. It's a classic example of convergent evolution, driven by pure necessity. The lynx has these huge, almost comically large paws up to 10 centimeters across. They spread its weight out over the snow, acting exactly like snowshoes, just like the hare's feet.
Wow. So predator and prey literally evolved the same specialized footwear to navigate the same snowy world, but that tight connection, that 97% dependency, leads to one of the most dramatic ecological cycles known, doesn't it? The boom-bust cycle.
It's relentless. Yeah, every 8 to 11 years or so, the snowshoe hare population just tanks. And when we say tanks, we mean a catastrophic drop, like maybe
Oh.
from 2,300 hares per square kilometer down to just 12. That's a 99.99% decline. It's staggering.
99.99%. It's hard to even imagine that kind of collapse. What does that mean for the lynx being so specialized?
It means widespread starvation and forced migration. The lynx population crashes right alongside the hare population. They're pushed into these desperate situations. They might travel up to 1,000 kilometers searching for anything to eat, and they often have to stop breeding entirely, maybe for up to 2 years, just to survive themselves. Their whole existence is basically tied to the population swings of that single prey species.
That level of dependence is genuinely terrifying. Okay, let's shift to some real tough characters of the North now. Starting with a predator that seems to ignore the usual rules about size, the wolverine. Its Latin name, gulo gulo, means glutton, but it sounds like its reputation comes more from sheer tenacity.
Oh, it absolutely earns that reputation. People often consider the wolverine more dangerous than bigger animals like bears just because it's so incredibly fierce and persistent. And it's built like a little tank for the cold. It has this thick, oily fur that's hydrophobic. That means it actually repels water, which is crucial for preventing heat loss when fur gets wet or iced up.
And it also has those big snowshoe-like paws we saw with the lynx and hare. Plus, claws for digging.
Yep, large furry paws for the snow and semi-retractable claws perfect for digging through frozen ground or climbing. But its real superpower, surprisingly, might not be its strength. No, it's the sense of smell. Our sources indicate its olfactory system is just leagues beyond ours. It can apparently detect just one molecule out of 5 million in the air. Incredible sensitivity. And this allows it to sniff out carcasses buried deep under the snow, sometimes up to 20 feet down. That's a huge advantage when food is scarce and hidden.
And that ability must fuel its legendary aggression, right? Driving off bigger predators from kills.
Exactly.
Right.
They're known to drive wolves, even cougars, away from carcasses they want to claim. And once they have a meal, they do something pretty unique. They'll spray any uneaten meat with this really strong musk, then they bury it to store for later. That's how it got the nickname skunk bear. They're just the ultimate symbol of raw, biological tenacity.
Okay, from that fierce scavenger, let's move to a giant prey animal, a herbivore that's actually an Ice Age survivor, the musk oxen. These guys survived the Pleistocene era, outlasting mammoths and mastodons. How?
The musk ox is all about biological defense and insulation. It's stocky, built low to the ground to conserve heat, and can weigh up to 360 kilograms. Its primary defense starts with that amazing coat. It's got 2 layers. Long, coarse guard hairs on the outside protect this incredibly soft, dense inner layer called quiviate. And quiviate, well, it's supposedly 8 times warmer than sheep's wool. Just phenomenal insulation.
And when they're threatened, they use that famous defensive formation, the circle or crescent.
Yes, exactly. Their King Leonidas defense, as some call it. They quickly bunch together, forming a tight circle or maybe a crescent shape, with the vulnerable calves safely tucked away in the middle. Then the adults face outwards, presenting this wall of horns and muscle. They'll charge out, horns lowered, to fend off attackers like wolf packs.
That defense relies heavily on the male strength, especially their heads. We read about those brutal mating duels, where bulls crash into each other with the force, apparently, of a car hitting a wall at 30 kilometers per hour. How do their skulls survive that?
It's an incredible piece of natural engineering. They have this 10-centimeter thick plate of bone on their foreheads called a boss. It's like a built-in helmet, designed specifically to absorb and distribute that massive impact energy. Combine that with a skull that's about 3 inches thick overall, it allows them to withstand these incredibly violent clashes needed to establish dominance and breeding rights, usually without complex skull fractures or severe brain injury.
It's just amazing, every single creature we've talked about today, from the wolverine's waterproof coat and super sniffer to the musk ox's reinforced skull and the Arctic fox's internal furnace. It just highlights the unbelievable, highly specialized adaptations needed to survive in the world's most punishing environments.
And looking at this extreme specialization teaches us a lot about resilience, but also about vulnerability. Think about the musk oxen again. They were actually hunted to extinction in Alaska by about 1920. Tragic. But through dedicated conservation and reintroduction efforts, by the year 2000, there was a healthy, thriving population of around 4,000 there. It really shows that sometimes human intervention can pull a highly specialized species back from the brink.
That's a hopeful story. But it does stand in stark contrast to what's happening now with some other Arctic specialists, doesn't it? Like global reindeer populations dropping 60% in just 3 decades. And the snowy owl, such an iconic bird, now listed as vulnerable with maybe only 30 or 40,000 left worldwide.
Yeah, the common thread for many of those declines seems to be habitat loss and, critically, the accelerating impacts of climate change. These animals are just so finely tuned to their specific Arctic conditions. Even reindeer, which seem like the ultimate cold weather machines with hollow hair for insulation and hooves that work like shovels and snowshoes, even they're struggling because they rely on predictable ice and snow patterns for feeding, for migration. If the environment changes faster than they can possibly adapt, the fallout is immediate and often catastrophic.
So, we've explored these incredible ways creatures beat the extreme cold, but this deep dive into the specialized north really leaves us with a challenging thought to ponder, doesn't it? Given how incredibly specialized these animals are, like the Canada lynx locked into that snowshoe hair cycle, what actually happens to the whole delicate ecosystem when climate change starts to mess with just one critical link in that frozen food chain? If the climate disrupts the hair cycle, for instance, well, the fate of that one species could easily cascade and become the fate of many others. It's all interconnected.